Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Ramadan Kareem. This is Jamal Al-Ustaz, MBSC alumni and the founder of this initiative, which is COVID-19, the Game Changer. This is a very dear and special panel, not because of the great panelists that are available here, but also of the lovely topic that we are discussing. Most of the topics that we have been discussing so far deals with the digital world. However, today we are giving into a different aspects and a different perspective, which is hardware, software, and manufacturing. Three areas that definitely will be, and software as well, and three areas that will be always needed for any economy and any society to prosper. So please allow me to welcome Mr. Mohammed Nuwaitu, who will be helping me in moderating this panel, as well as the great panelists. And if you can introduce yourselves one after the other, please.
Mohammed. David, why don't you go first?
Oh, sure, I can. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here tonight at this panel. And so my name is Davide Garufi. I'm serving as an innovation project manager for the European Materials CRH company. It's a building material company, cement, concrete, asphalt. And I'm dealing with, when it comes to innovation projects, I'm dealing with M&A and dealing with new product development within European actually activities within CRH. And in parallel, many activities as a consultant for startups who want to enter the European market into energy sector. Thank you very much for inviting.
Dr. Hisham, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Hashim Al-Zain. I'm the Director of Engineering and CTO and co-founder of Dartec Engineering. We're specialized in localizing the manufacturing of mechanical spare parts using reverse engineering or re-engineering, where we take mechanical objects, physical assets, and turn them digital, and then outsource the manufacturing locally.
Mr. Ahmed, I'm just going into the screen. So please, the next one on the loop, Mr. Ahmed.
By the way, this reminds me of the Brady Bunch. We look like the Brady Bunch. Everybody's looking around.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed. I'm the co-founder of CubeSat Arabia. Our startup is to provide consistent Earth images from space by providing images for the same location in Earth regularly. By that, we can serve the military and defense, insurance, agriculture, and many. So what we do is building small satellites, launch it to space, low Earth orbit in particular, and downloading these images and provide it to our customers. That's what we do.
The superstar with the hat, Mr. Asiri.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for having me here in this panel. My name is Abdullah Asiri. I'm the CEO and founder of Lucidia and Waqood. I'm also alumni of MBSC, the great college. So Lucidia, for those who don't know, we are a media intelligence platform. We are using AI to understand the people's perception and the people's opinion and feedback online and social media websites, as well as on traditional media. We are acting in the technology space, obviously, and we are a SaaS-based product trying to help companies understand their consumers, understand their customers online.
Understood. Mr. Mohammed Al-Musnad.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mohammed Al-Musnad, General Manager and Partner at AGMC, Al-Wafa Global Manufacturing. We are an exporter of plastic body parts and components of the automotive industry in the industrial area in Rabigh, in Mecca. And our factory actually established in 2007. And since then, AGMC ensured the customer satisfaction across the MENA region. We produce such a product like bumpers, grill, coolant fan, fan holder, fan, mud flaps, and other products related to the plastic body parts for mainly for Toyota and Hyundai aftermarket auto part. We also export to different countries like UAE, Sudan, Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Lebanon, and other countries. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for staying at home. And Mike with you, Mr. Jamal.
Thank you very much. We have my dear colleague, Asim.
Assalamu alaikum. Ahlan Jamal. Welcome everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be with you guys during this quarantine. I'm beginning to lose my mind, so it's good to talk to people. I'm Asim. If for those who don't know who I am, I co-founded Geeks Valley with my good friend Tahir. We are the second largest fabrication lab developer in the country. And our focus is on education. So everything we do revolves around prepping up the next generation for the industrial revolution that we're actually witnessing right now. So building fabrication labs, training the teachers and the professors, developing material for classes. This is what we do. And we have over 600 tutorials that we have put up online for free for everybody, because our main focus is to spread the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mohammed.
Thank you, Gamal, for the introduction. I'm Mohammed Nawaitu. I'm the director of Startup Grind Mecca, and I'm honored to be here with you, with my amazing colleague, Mr. Jamal, as one of the moderators today in this amazing panel with all our panelists. Let's start. Let's go ahead.
Go ahead.
What do you think, Jamal?
Definitely. The first question is yours. Choose the hardest, huh?
Yeah, okay. The hardest one?
The hardest one to start with.
We were thinking, let's start. Okay. We were starting about the trends. And after COVID-19, as our CDS was speaking, it's a game changer. Everything has been changing. So what are the main trends in sales, in customer behavior, in the consumption that you felt that affected your business, especially on the manufacturing hardware process? And with this, I can go to Muhammad for manufacturing. How does this affect you?
Actually, the challenge is, it's a big challenge we have today. And the challenge, I think the whole world today is living a new experience on all levels. Government level, customer level, employee level, worker, citizen, human, even on all level, even in the communication level. So as we speak right now, it's through this application Zoom. And actually the outbreak pandemic has a forever change, I think, the customer behavior and perspective and even the experience in certain extent. And I think these changes and impact will remain with us even after the pandemic finished, I mean. And I remember that I saw a clip that described a future, our future, that before the pandemic, it's described to people how we're gonna live in the future. And how it's going to be. Everyone going to stay home. No one going to go out. Everyone going to stay, and everything going to deliver to your home. And everyone going to be fat or something like that. I don't know, but it's, we are a certain extent, we are living that right now, I guess. And actually, the outbreak had disturbed the business around the world, and some businesses and factories overcome these challenges by taking advantage, a new opportunity, acting quickly, shifting the business, reacting, reducing cost. At the same time, some of the other businesses, factories, are not lucky enough actually to adopt these changes and shifting. And that shifting was very slow. And some of them actually shut down their factory so they can minimize the cost that they have today. Thank you.
Yeah, so as we're speaking, Muhammad, today about all of these trends, so in terms of your sales or in terms of the customer spending, people now they are in home, right? So yes. So bumpers or accidents, I think that they are reduced to the least. However, as you were introducing your company, you were saying that you were making some sort of fans or cooling coils and things like that. So were you able to shift your production towards, let's say, the ventilators or the breathing devices that many of the hospitals are looking after? Were you able to do that?
Actually, we keep our doors open to this kind of changing. But to be honest, some of the changes need a huge investment. Sometimes it's not easy to shift from a car manufacturing to another business. Especially some factory, they have, for example, some capacity that's not really utilized. So they can utilize this kind of capacity to reduce other stuff. But for us, actually, you're going to be surprised. Last month, we sold more than the first month and second month of this year. If you ask me why, because actually the demand of the product itself and the marketing and our competitor, from the international competitor, they stop, for example, supply their product to Saudi. So we capture more market share. And that's give us like actually, that's why we didn't shift our business yet. Because we're doing good today.
You are one of the lucky ones.
Yes, you can say that.
I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
So we can say that the defect in the global supply chain has been a benefit to your business directly.
Yes, I agree with that. But I think it's not going to last for a long time. Because the last month, most of the workshops are closed. Most of the warehouses, wholesalers are closed, retailers are closed. So I think the damage is not yet hit us yet. So I think in the 2 months, if that gonna stay for 3 months, we should adapt these changes very fast. But I think in Ramadan they open all the stores, most of the stores until 4 o'clock. So that's benefit for us. We still can sell our product in the market. Thank you.
Okay, let me get just, I have one point. I have a feeling that you say that we may have an opportunity to improve our localization and the manufacturing process while abandoning our export, correct?
Of course, definitely, correct, yes.
We can do.
Actually, yeah, of course, because the market actually is divided between the local manufacturer and the international manufacturer that from China. And when the pandemic came, all the logistics channels are being closed, and that's how we capture our bigger market share in the last month.
Big market. Okay, we are going to get back to localization, but let me get to Dr. Hisham to ask him, what do you see more as a main hardware startup and company and manufacturing as well? What is the trends and the challenges you have seen?
The challenges I have seen in manufacturing, given that we are in touch with the local needs for manufacturing, is that we notice that most companies have experienced a severe hit to their supply chain for 2 reasons: social distancing and reduced capacity, where you can't have more than 40% of your work staff working at a facility. Some people exceed that depending on the classification of whether they're foods and goods, FMCG, but most manufacturing in the industrial area have reduced their capacity significantly. And what we're experiencing now is not a demand recession, it's a supply recession, which is a very different beast, a beast that we haven't dealt with in a very, very long time. Even if you need more, there are very few options right now to help serve your market. So you have to be a little bit more independent and know how to serve your own needs and address your own needs. And that takes time and takes practice. And we don't have neither. We don't have time and we need to get there fast. So the way to do it is really to break 2 barriers. Working in silos, we need to work more collaboratively to achieve a collective goal. And number 2 is streamline efforts. There is no, I'm the winner and I wear the championship belt. There's not, that model does not work, not after COVID-19, not even during COVID-19. So we need to figure out how can we complement each other with each of our skills collectively to achieve a common goal.
Excellent.
I'm getting more and more to the point that we have a big opportunity to improve our localization and manufacturing internally. You are increasing more, and we are getting to this point with Jamal later. But let me go to the other shift and to the software challenges, to the software trends.
I want to add one thing actually to
yes,
the
okay.
subject. In the packing part, if any manufacturing process, it's the key. It's very important, packing in any manufacturing, as we know. And the key issue actually facing the manufacturing today is packing. As you know, packing today, it could be deliver the coronavirus to your home. So this is another issue that maybe we can address this later about producing a new material of packing that doesn't capture. I don't know, but we can discuss this later.
We can discuss, yes, sure. And how we capitalize on the packing point
Exactly.
localization. Yes. So back to Mr. Abdurrahman. If we are speaking about the software,
Mr. Abdullah Asiri.
Abdullah Asiri, sorry, Mr. Abdullah. If we are talking about the software, and the software has been changed dramatically, supporting even the hardware or even the software startups that has been changed. Tell us what is the latest trends that you have noticed. What is the sectors that has been fruitful? What is the sectors that has been declined? Tell us an iBird view. What is happening in software?
So as you guys know, the term software is broad, right? And software, we have a lot of categories and sub-industries under software. Let me focus so we can all benefit on certain sector of software, let's say industry. We talk about a SaaS-based products or software as a service market itself. Now, I know a lot of people, they would think that, software-based companies, they are flourishing and they are doing well. That's true for some of them. It's not true for all of them. The good side is, unlike manufacturing, we don't rely on supply chain. We don't rely on physical infrastructure, which is good. That makes us in a better position. But nonetheless, depending on what you are serving, you might be actually hit. For example, solutions that serve travel industry, they are not performing very well these days, as you might imagine. Solutions and software that's serving restaurants, dine-in, serving all these affected industries, they're not doing very well. On the other hand, there are other solutions that booming, like Zoom, for example, conference calls and cloud infrastructure and online gaming and all that. Those software that are going in very nice direction. So in general, there are some sectors inside software that are doing good, some others not doing very well. But if you take it as a whole, if you take a look at the major companies in the US markets, how they are doing, there is a decrease actually in the collective valuation of the software companies around 30% since the beginning of COVID-19. And that's of course because some of them actually, as I mentioned, targeting certain sectors. And we saw one of the tech giants in the world, like Google, for example, and then in the past few days they announced that they're cutting their marketing budget, they're freezing hiring. So the sector itself, they are winners and they are losers. So we have the both flavors in the sector.
Allow me, Abdullah, to ask more, if I may, Mohammed, about since Lucidia is more about social listening, and you probably analyze what is happening in the social media, what is happening with the people to different companies, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure that you can see a panic, as well as some way of saying it's okay, it will be fine, but we need to push more of what we are doing. So what do you think that most of the companies that are flourishing, are they the big e-commerce or are they the smaller ones, right? Do you see that things that are related to EdTech, as we've heard in the last webinars, EdTech, health tech, e-commerce, logistics, last mile delivery, and things like this are getting the boom. So you, as someone that analyzes data and looking into the artificial intelligence, into what is happening in the internet world, do you have a confirmation? Do you have a negation? Is there something that we are not seeing or not listening to?
Well, I mean, taking a look at the industries within Saudi Arabia and some of these industries you mentioned, you have customers and you are seeing their activities and you are seeing what they're doing. Let me tell you the following. Yes, they're flourishing, most of the you mentioned, but some others are not as flourishing as you might think. For example, companies, especially startups in the delivery business, people would think that they are doing a great job. Well, yes, but as a startup, when you have a sudden high demand and you are a small startup and you just a couple of people or you just tens of people and you're not really used to this
surge,
high demand, high operation, surge of exactly demand, you're gonna suffer. And what makes even more challenging is that your staff are not the seasoned, operation managers that they came from 20 years of experience that they can handle these kind of situations. So Some of them, they are very, very suffering. Even e-commerce business, even for e-commerce builders. I don't want to name companies, but also they are suffering as well. Yes, it's an opportunity for them, but they've been caught off guard. They were not ready. So they are benefiting, but not as much as if they were ready and prepared. So yes, that's for that. Now for EdTech, we are seeing also booming. This is because, you know, education is very important as for all nations, in all countries in the world, and that's something that countries are pushing for, schools, and we are seeing good startups here in Saudi that are flourishing in this business. So yeah, so this is to confirm and also to put a note on what you observed, Jamal.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, and adding to another point on top of this, is the need for reports and analysis has been increased in the last time, in the last era, due to the sudden change after COVID-19, because a lot of people saying that the need of reports have been totally changed.
The need of what?
The need of reports.
Analytical reports, economic reports,
Okay,
people to read what is happening as data.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So because we are doing a social listening, so listening to people on social media and what they're doing, you know, since the lockdown, everyone at home, and they are, you know, they increase their activities on social media in terms of looking what's happening and kind of sharing their opinions. Yes, we are seeing our customers, we're seeing the demand increase for Lucidia, and we saw very interesting and logical actually behavior from our customers. All of our customers, they are starting to monitor any association between coronavirus and their brand. So they want to be prepared for any rumor or any news that associating their brand with having someone infected with coronavirus working at that company. So they are very aware of that, or they were very cautious not to see these kind of messages flying around, because, you know, at these times, what's being spread the most actually, unfortunately, is rumors more than actually true or official news. So yes, that's from the, let's say, companies and brands. Also government. Government is now very keen on kind of knowing the perception. Why people, what are the people worried about? Are they worried about X, Y, or Z? Are they optimistic nowadays? Are they still pessimistic? Are there any rumors going out that we should clarify and kind of make people aware of? So yes, the demand increased because this is a critical time, right? You know, during the lockdown, during the sudden change of behavior, there are a lot of behavior, let's say, shifts for consumers. And we are now seeing FMCG, for example, one of the largest FMCG companies in the world, which have a branch in Saudi. They are also using Lucidia, and their main purpose of using Lucidia is very interesting for us, because it's the first company using Lucidia for this purpose, is to understand the consumer shifts, the behavior shifts. You want to know how was it and how it's changing, so they can forecast either demand, they can forecast either different needs and all that. So it's becoming very important, and what makes it even more important is people or companies are moving into digital space. They are digitally transforming, so they need these kind of things to kind of being at the know-how of the digital world. So yes, it is increased.
Excellent.
It is increased. Perfect.
From the space
to the space. Yes.
To the space.
To the space immediately to Mr. Ahmed, and a game changer playing from the space. Tell us, we cannot say what is the trends in the space because it is a trending topic already.
Yes.
So tell us what have been changed in the space industry. What COVID-19 have impacted? What is the challenges that is facing you?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure that you allow me this opportunity. But for guys who know not about space sector, let me give small introduction about.
The first thing that will come to people that the space has no corona. So you guys are doing well, supposedly.
No, actually, we're building the space instruments and space systems in ground. So we are affected with COVID-19 anyway. But space sector is booming for the many reasons. One of the main reasons is the access to space is reduced dramatically with the 10x. With the reusable rocket technologies, it allows to put many space systems with fractional cost. And Arab states is seeing this opportunity, and many Arab states trying to launch their satellites to orbit LEO, low Earth orbit. And UAE is leading this journey. They are, for example, UAE secured a launch slot in Japan, and they will send the Hope probe to study Mars in this July, in spite this pandemic. Well, however, space sector is not far from this pandemic. For example, OneWeb filed bankruptcy protection, and other space companies do as well. And also there is multiple rocket launches have been delayed and rescheduled. So, but as many experts estimated that COVID-19 will change the world, I believe it will refresh and make room for newcomers. For example, as the demand of space technology went down, many giant space companies turned to the small ones and offer them support, and if they need any services or technology transfer, they're offering this to the small startups. We in CubeSat Arabia, as space startup, has gained multiple benefits by getting help to develop our subsystems from suppliers in Europe and US. In addition, we try to participate to developing some response to COVID-19. Actually, we try to build ventilators, because ventilators by the origin is a space technology. But we think that the problem is not about the design. Many companies open the open source, but the main problem is about supply chain. So we saw the huge need of localization. One of the panelists said about this term is important. We saw it by an eye that we need to localize many technologies, such as building the electrical components that that's the modular unit for many technologies.
I think that Asim will be very happy to give us his take into this as well.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you know, Jamal, that I had a?
Since you are building some ventilators.
Yes, giving.
That's true. That's true. Well, but I needed to add a point, Mr. Zubairi. I mean, he mentioned that the giant space exploration companies are actually spending more towards their ventures, and especially the small businesses. I mean, we've seen SpaceX, they launched the Starlink, which is a constellation of Cube satellites that is supposed to provide internet for everybody on planet Earth. So that's it was a huge news.
Yes.
So if a pandemic occurs again, then everybody will have access to the internet from everywhere, and until then we'll probably move towards automation more and more. So more people will start working from home, more people will start being productive from far away. As for Geeks Valley, I mean, our business is around education. So most of the fabrication labs that we have built are in educational institutions. And since the shutdown, I mean, the education system was basically one of the first industries to be completely shut down. It even sparked
Yes.
debate in this country and around the globe on whether people should get a refund for the second semester. And the rationale the students and the parents are using is that schools were shut at mid of February. And they haven't attended any classes since then. On the other hand, educational institutions have to take care of their expenses, salaries of teachers and professors, bills that they have to pay. So they might save a little bit by not having to provide material or food or whatever for the remainder of the semester, but it amounts to little to nothing compared to the other expenses that they have to take care of. So for some of those schools, a refund will simply cause a huge financial hit that might not be able to recover from without government help. But then you look at Khan Academy and other e-learning platforms, and they are flourishing. I don't know if you've seen this, but Khan Academy founder came out a couple of weeks ago. He was pleading for more donations because their servers are being overwhelmed with a huge spike in activities and traffic. So, there are good and bad. I mean, that comes with coronavirus. And I'm pretty sure nothing will stay the same after this pandemic, because we are supposed to have a pandemic every 20 years or so. I mean, let's not forget that in the past 15 years, I mean, we've seen this with SARS, Ebola, and what have you. And we've been getting calls from various institutions because they wanted to somehow keep the kids learning while being at home. And it's a difficult task, but it has to be done one way or another. So it's interesting. I mean, there are opportunities, but at the same time, it's tough. It's tough to deal with. Everybody is basically being jumped on, and they're not sure what to do. But
agree with you 100%. That one of the biggest challenges today to our educational system is how to bring it up working while this pandemic. And doing this is one of the hardest jobs.
Right.
That's true.
Yes. Yes, go, Jamal.
No, and I just wanted to say that we are speaking about servers, then we are speaking more about emissions and the global warming, right? And then energy efficiency should be the next logical question to go to.
Good jump. I like it.
Yeah.
What do you think, David? Remove your yes, please.
That was a good assist. Yes, I completely agree with you. Energy efficiency can be for sure an enabler for more efficiency in production, also enabling technology, and also rethinking about how we do our things today to do them better and having maybe higher margins, higher than now. And going back to the question that you posed before about the other industries, what we do see is that higher margin industries are still making quite some money, while lower margin industries are actually losing even more.
What is a high margin? What's a low margin? For at least in Europe, we would like to know more, because you bring a different perspective into the game. So tell us more about what is happening in the EU, into Europe in general, in the trends, the sales, the change of customer perspective, how businesses are behavior. How is this pandemic affecting you guys?
Okay. Great. So first of all, Europe has been always a little puzzle. So you have different ideas and different, there's a lot of, I would say, communication and different ideas on how to focus in this pandemic. But anyways, after a certain bumpy road, now we are more or less in a unique, they have a unique view on how to tackle this. And yeah, I think is everywhere on the news. How the basic principles of social distancing and staying home can help, at least until now. So starting with the trends, what you see, like many other places around the globe, low margin industries by definition, where there is a lot of competition, right? If you have a lot of competition, you have to play with pricing, and maybe you have lower margin depending on the target. But if you look at, for example, the hotel or restaurant industry, as you said before, guys, has been hit quite a lot. I'm Italian, so a lot of restaurants around the place been hit. Also, a lot of tourism been hit, and there are many ways to help out, but mainly the government support has been the answer until now. Even though speaking with some guys that they have both businesses in Europe and US, what they said is that there is an opportunity now to use technology, as the dear colleagues were saying before, to enable and to save cost, to even be even more efficient than before, to restart us better. Some friends are using more and more the bringing home the food. They're trying to give receipts out there. They're trying to interact more and more with the customer to have a more say humanized interaction, and to check out whether they're staying well. That's in general in this lower margin. Talking about the industry I am with, which is building materials, what you see is that Europe and US, they are quite high, quite low, sorry, in uncertainty as a market, quite mature. And due to the coronavirus, depending on the countries, for example, lower part of Europe, Southern Europe, have had quite a huge hit, 80-90% lower margins and revenues. Now is slowly coming up. Central Europe, which is still okay, I would say 40 to 60% of the original performances as comes to the business performances. And northern countries and eastern countries within Europe, they're doing quite well. They're at the 80-90% because they have different measures and they have been less hit by the COVID-19. When it comes instead to the innovation that can enable this, certain companies are cutting on innovation. So I would be jobless if my company would have been also investing on innovation nowadays. This means finding new processes, accelerating certain high priority, low hanging fruits, which have been discarded. Let's do it later. Now we have to party. We have to sell more. And I have to say that now these low-hanging fruit are now already giving some results, and they're very promising, based on, again, technology and lower carbon emission technologies, which we are trying to push as much as possible. So in general, that's on the lower margin. On the higher margin, you have the luxury, you have other biotech, for example, or new materials companies. And depending on the size of those and the existing market, they're adapting themselves to support the pandemic. And last but not least, for both of them, what is happening is that the influence of lobbying activities plays a major role. So if your company has a strong connection with the local governments, and of course the sector is defined as priority and as fundamental for the nation, for the state to survive, as critical, then you might have still a survival mode plus.
So I think people with energy, they will never die, right? I mean, what is happening in terms of energy efficiency or energy generation, renewables, whatever, you guys are supposed to be flourishing. I mean, the earth is breathing back again, right? You can see the CO2 levels are going down and so on and so forth. So are you seeing that the trend, people are trying to install more? We will have different construction materials that are handled differently.
Yeah. So when it comes to the investments, so the European Green Deal, for example, is like 1 trillion euros investment program for the next 10 years. That's the European Commission just pledged some months ago. It was supported by the European Investment Bank, which turned for a day climate bank. So those are huge messages towards the sustainability and sustainable energy. That was before COVID-19. What is happening now when it comes to the investment and to potential next installations? what I learned from some friends which have quite some interesting platforms on crowdfunding, you see that people, we're talking about equity crowdfunding, are buying more and more, even more than before, sustainable energy companies or sustainability related companies. They're buying equities. So nowadays, the consumers, besides buying on Amazon, they keep on buying also potentially shares on equity of interesting companies. And this is growing quite a lot. For the installation side, well, at the moment is on hold in some countries where construction is not priority, while apparently it will be. It's controversial as a question because you see Netherlands as a country where I live. You see sustainability and renewable energy and materials being on top of the agenda as before COVID-19. And now I see incredible articles where you have lower CO2 emission nowadays because of COVID-19. People
That's
are not
good.
going, that's good.
And
So
I think that also oil and what had been plunging with it is also affecting in terms of sustainability as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Definitely, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
right. I mean, I'd like to jump immediately to localization of small manufacturing items, right?
Please.
And micro manufacturing and 3D printing and such technologies, Dr. Hashim. During COVID-19 and what is happening, are we seeing a place for micro manufacturing, for digital manufacturing, for 3D printing? Do we see the infrastructure being built slowly but steadily? Do you see this as something that is trending, as something with an opportunity, and also a current challenge for different manufacturers? I know that the question might be long, but I'm sure you can give a holistic insight into this.
The short answer to your question is yes, there is definitely a change in trend. So I got that covered. So now let's talk about the extended answer to your question. Before COVID-19, most of everything as far as manufacturing and supply chain has been relying mostly on physical assets, a physical building, a physical manufacturer, a physical warehouse. Everything is physical. Physical school, physical hospital, physical supplier. Now we're going to see there's a line in the sand now. The bell has been rung. You can't unring the bell. This is a permanent change. This is not a temporary change. When people go back, people will not fly like they used to do. When you control COVID-19 in your country, you can't control it in other countries. So the fear will persist. So pre-COVID-19, everything was more physical. Now we're going to start seeing a trend where things are more digital, but not as a replacement, but more of an augmentation. How can it complement? How can it help it? How can it serve it to achieve so you don't have this disruption in your supply chain? And you have to do that before a pandemic happens. Right now, we have it in the medical industry, but sooner or later, we're going to have it in a different industry. Are we agile enough to cope with that? The answer to that question is yet to be answered. We don't know yet, but we have to prepare. We can't wait for a pandemic to happen in order for us to react. We have to be proactive versus reactive.
How can we do that? How can we prepare? Is it small digital manufacturing facilities are the ones to be there, or how would it be?
It has to be a cooperation between large and small, because small and themselves cannot survive. You need, think of it as a big white shark with a small fish around it. The small fish need the big white shark to survive, but the big shark can help them get to where they need to. They basically use it as a process of getting to where they need because they can't get there on their own.
I think also I want to add one of the challenges actually, it's the cost of transformation from to the digital manufacturing. It's cost very high. And I think if there is a point that where these changes will cost less, I think there is more opportunity. These changes will be more easier, I think, in the future.
Do you think?
No, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead, Dr. Hashim, please.
I just wanted to tether a point to Mr. Muhammad's comment, is that in our line of business, we have proven that digital manufacturing could be feasible if you can justify it with volume. So basically, I'll give you a very specific example with one of our suppliers where we have reverse engineered some of their spare parts, their obsolescent spare parts, and they're in the Rabigh region, so they're pretty close. And we have supplied it to them in the past, and when COVID-19 happened, they needed a reorder. So they wanted us to go and pick up the parts, and so we can use it as a sample so we can manufacture it locally. We didn't need to do any of that because we had the digital information. I saved myself some time for going to the plant, picking up the part, risking my people and their staff of potentially getting infected with COVID-19, which basically actually happened in a different plant. I was in a situation where I was delivering some parts and there was an outbreak of coronavirus while I was at the plant. So we had to evacuate. So this is real. This is real. So we managed to use digital manufacturing to shorten the lead time and eliminate some steps that we would have had to revert to if we didn't have digital information. And what we ended up doing is if we do something for one plant, we try to see what other plants need that specific part so we can use the economy of scale to reduce the unit cost and increase volume. And we do that by collaborating with multiple manufacturers.
We really hope that that what you have experienced actually it's applied to the whole. But I think also factory need to be eager to these changes also.
Yes.
There is some part from your side and there's some part from our side.
So since you are on the factory side, Muhammad, are you agile enough to change?
Of course, if the cost is not if it's cost effective, yes, I will definitely.
So you are into the cost-driven business.
Oh yes, exactly, definitely. Everyone.
Gotta pay the bills.
Yes.
I mean, since we are speaking a lot about digital manufacturing, I think it's time for Asiri to step in. SaaS and softwares and the integration of that with digital manufacturing as a way for companies to come in. Can we see some cross collaboration? Can we see some stuff are overlapping in a way or another?
Well, software is being used everywhere, right? And now with the increase of usage of AI and which is basically AI is imitating the human work, we can see a lot of areas of automations. And with automation, we are seeing the reducing costs. We're seeing more efficient processes. So yes, definitely. And I think this is something that eventually will happen even here, manufacturers here in Saudi. We are seeing large manufacturing units.
You just muted. Apologies.
Okay, wait.
No, you're good to go.
I'm back now?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm using software for muting the noise around me, so it was updating. So, anyways, you can hear me now, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. That's perfect.
So yeah, I mean, software goes hand by hand with hardware and with manufacturing, especially with the increase of the usage of AI, which, as I mentioned, introduced automation. So yes, definitely. I'm not sure actually if here in Saudi Arabia how manufacturing are using automation, robotics. Is there a fully or semi-fully robotics-based manufacturing units in Saudi or not? But hopefully we see, inshallah, soon.
So do you see, Abdullah, today that the customer behavior, whether it was industrial, individual, whatever it is, this change, is it permanent? Are we going to see people more digitally acquainted? Are we going to see people more connected into their homes, into their silos, and just connected, and digital will become the new norm?
Wallahi, that's a great question. And we see two extremes when people answering this question. Some people would say, yes, khalas, we are not going back to normal. This is the way to go right now. And some other people say, no, just temporary kind of adjustment. I myself lean toward the second opinion. I think it's a temporary adjustment. I see people, yes, after the pandemic or after the crisis, people will still be using technology-based solutions to ease their lives. Like, you know, older people will still use maybe grocery apps to order for their groceries. But I think things will go back to normal. Not 100%. There are people that would, the people adapted to the new technologies will still continue using it. But it's our nature as people. It's we want to socialize. Yani, at the end of the day, I want to go shop at the malls, right? And you do, of course. We want to dine outside. We want to collaborate. What?
I was doing.
Yes, yeah. Yani, even such events. Yani, even events. 3 or 4 days ago, I attended one of the largest conferences in the world. It's called SASTER. Usually, yani, it used to be an actual event, right? But now they converted to be a virtual event. The experience is not the same. And يعني فعليا, no matter how you want to plan it or shift it, people interaction is something. Yeah, it doesn't work. And يعني, are we going to reach technology will reach a phase that would kind of introduce this kind of interaction between people? Maybe, maybe not. This is sci-fi talk today because nothing tangible we can see. So I think after the pandemic, people will go back to normal. The technology adoption will increase, but not significantly that people will rely only on these technologies, but people would consider them very well. Now, what's going to be changed and what we're going to actually be touching is nowadays what I see, a lot of large companies, corporate, like large enterprises in Saudi, they are shifting and being forced to shift to being digitally enabled. Digital transformation has been a hot topic for the past 10 years. And large companies with the corporate mindset, they were being delaying this kind of transformation all the time. Now they are being hit. And they have to do it anyways. And I see this because in my company, WAQOD, the demand of implementing solutions that would help companies to digitally transform, it's enormous. We see, without naming companies, you see huge holding companies, groups in Saudi Arabia, all of a sudden they want to transform. And they don't want to transform just for the period of COVID-19, they just, they want to transform the whole business. They want to open online channels everywhere. They want to enhance the logistics. They want to have digitally enabled solutions. So in that sense, we might see change because before the supply of these digitally enabled solutions services were too little. But after the pandemic, we will see anything. I think a lot of things you want to order, you can do it physically or you can do it online. And that's where we're gonna actually increase the adaptation usage for technology.
Can we see the same, David?
Yeah, actually it's exactly the same also in Central Europe and Southern Europe. Even my father used to make his business for his own small company face to face most of the time. Now he became master of Skype. So this gives already a glance of how easy and how quick a lot of people are adapting to the new technology or to digital technology mostly. Also within CRH, which is a 27 billion revenue company, for the first time or the second time in their lives, also our senior management started to use Teams and to mute and unmute themselves, use but
the shift what we're talking about is in terms of sustainability of materials. So are we going to see online procurement and not the personal shift? We're talking about on the B2B side. Are we going to see a more digitally transformed, I don't know, digital cutting process that will happen in China, for example? Are we see a major collaboration between entities between China, Germany, Italy, the US, and so on and so forth after the COVID?
I think those are already flourishing quite well. And what you see, the companies which are more adaptable, not which one are more big, but adaptable to the change, those are the ones that will survive the best. So the interchange and the collaboration between different pillars of the business is necessary. We are currently starting and continuing to work with the different companies in Asia or in US for specific projects. And what I see is that innovation is not impacted at all. Actually, innovation is enabled per se, by definition is adaptable per se, innovation management the same, but the implementation of those projects, they need hardware to be tested, hardware to be mounted. So of course, when the offline part starts, and then at the moment you're just stuck and waiting for the next phase to start. But anyways, the collaboration and the cross-cutting.
David?
Development also within generations which were not really used to it yet. So that's also a matter of generation and adapting to it.
Okay, if you let me add, I want to know our space guy, Mr. Ahmed. If we are speaking about localization, and you are speaking that you are one of the companies that tries to localize a space, and being one of the first space companies in the Middle East. How space industry and how space technology can help us in finding solutions or supporting all efforts done by the government and the private sectors against COVID-19? Is there something can be done?
Yes, actually, there is multiple things. One of the solutions that we're trying to provide in response for COVID-19, that provide Earth images for sites that is congested in like Jeddah, the congestions in buildings. Those areas is much potential that the COVID-19 will spread. So the places where is congested, we can take pictures of these areas and provide it to the government. We call it the الأحياء العشوائية. So this is one of the services that we try to provide using free space pictures that's already satellites in the orbit. Space sector is an important industry. This is because it's to provide a bird view for anything, assets, ocean monitoring, and many things. Plus, it provides a sustainable connection. As one of the panelists mentioned, that it will provide a sustainable connection for remote areas. But also, we will not omit the communication companies like STC or Mobile, because tower communication is more wide and reliable than satellite.
So is there any connection between what you guys do and data analytics by any means?
For them, as I know, is by providing Earth images for remote areas, for buildings that is congested, we can provide analysis for the governments and decision makers that these areas is much has the potential of spreading COVID-19 in that districts. Yes.
And can this service be implemented currently? Your company can implement this service these days?
Yes. A week ago, we started to do analysis of Earth images that is taken freely from space by already satellites that is in orbit. But we want to build the AI machine that can precisely identify that areas. So we are doing it by eye, using the synthetic curvature radar. But we want to build it that the AI machine can precisely detect these areas in a regular basis. You see, there is changes in Earth, so you want to do analytic regularly by new images every day.
Are you using LiDAR data or just?
No, not LiDAR, synthetic curvature radar.
Okay, so that, okay, interesting.
Sorry.
To Mr. Asim, we want your input about this space technology and how it's integrated with electronics and your company. We want your input, please.
Yeah, as well as the localization part. I would like to hear about the localization part, especially for the things like the ventilator as well.
All right. Well, with space technologies, I mean, we don't really do much except apart from training programs surrounding the CUBE satellites. And we have partnered up with Canadian and American aviation companies to help us with that regard, but nothing has materialized as of yet. But ventilators, on the other hand, I mean, we are, as of this moment, carrying out the hackathon, the ventilators hackathon. We have participants from over 10 countries. We are targeting the Arab world. It was premiered on Al Arabiya, NBC, and our partners include.
So is this a part of the way you want to localize the ventilators? Like, is this a part of your initiatives to push more of the external technologies or the open IPs into the local market?
Absolutely. One of our partners is the Royal Commission of Yumba and Jubail, and the Saudi Health Council.
Yeah.
So we are partnering up with various agencies in order to improve upon the existing ventilator designs that are open source and reduce the cost, because the cost as of today is $25,000 to $50,000, and that's a lot of money, and
or maybe a lot of margin.
That too. I mean, normally before the pandemic, hospitals didn't have many of them laying around. They are needed in ER or in surgery rooms, but other than that, they had limited uses. Now they are needed because coronavirus is a respiratory illness. So companies that are manufacturing the ventilators have ramped up their production to plug the shortage. But also, we have seen on the news car companies like Ford, GM, Tesla, they have officially offered to assist in repurposing some of their assets to manufacture ventilators. In Saudi Arabia, AEC, the Advanced Electronic Company, they have repurposed areas for ventilators production. So, but this isn't sustainable in the long run. They are basically jumping on the opportunity to benefit from the current status.
So how do you see the long-term game?
When it comes to ventilators, I don't see it. I mean, it's if the company is agile and mobile enough, they can do it. But it's a seasonal opportunity. But a season that we don't know when is going to happen next. So when the next pandemic happens, if it's going to happen, is it going to be a respiratory illness that requires such devices? So I don't know how that will go. So I can't provide you with an answer. But currently, the hackathon is a success in terms of participation, in terms of involvement from engineers, people with skills, and because the reason why we jumped on this opportunity is because we ended up with several engineers on 6 different cities around the kingdom who had absolutely nothing to do because our fabrication labs were shut down.
So speaking about that, that's a very good point. The fabrication lab and the fabrication staff and the facilities, which are very labor intensive, right? I think you and the factories and these things, still it cannot be done remotely, if I understand right.
That's true. That's true.
So how did you manage it during the pandemic? And this question goes to you as well as to Muhammad and Dr. Hashim as well.
So most of the participants are in the maker movement, and people in the maker movement, they mainly have, or most of them have labs in their home or in their yard or in their garage. And some of the fabrication labs that are private are being utilized as well, but the public ones aren't. Because when you're designing a ventilator, when you're trying to build a prototype upon the existing open source ventilators on the market, you can do that from anywhere. You don't have to be in a public fab lab. And the involvement of the Royal Commission of Biomba and Jubail and other manufacturing companies within the hackathon is so that if those ventilators are needed, they are going to be manufactured. But as of now, things are being contained in the kingdom, so they're not needed. But if a spike happens in terms of number of coronavirus patients, then we will be there, and along with all the manufacturing companies to supply the health ministry and hospitals.
Good. Can Mohammed and Dr. Hashim also help us with understanding, since you guys are labor intensive in a way or another, how did you manage during the pandemic? That was a challenge for you, I believe.
Yes, actually, if you allow me, Mr. Hisham.
Dr. Hashim, yes.
Dr. Hashim, the government of Saudi Arabia actually helped us a lot in this matter, partially. They start to have some initiative that supporting the human resources and the let's say the workers mainly, I mean in the factory. But actually the question is that pivoting and changing the business and shifting the business, is it beneficial for the short term, for the short term or long term? Is it permanent or temporary only? I think pivoting, it's really hard decision to make sometimes, because if you change permanent and the pandemic goes after 3 months, you have to shift back to your own business. I mean that cost, that will add more cost to your business also. And if you change temporarily, that will you will have some gains actually. So I think this is this question is very important to the subject here. Other thing actually is if you see, for example, the clothing company Armani, they are shifting their business to have a overall PPE product, and they're spending billions, I guess, for these changes. So is this changes going to be permanent? I don't think so. It's going to be temporary, of course, as we know, because the people lost interest in buying luxury clothes and stuff. The people now are focusing in the main, I mean, let's say, in the necessity, let's say, yes. This is the other side, yes. And Mr. Hashim, you can continue, please. Sorry.
Sure. I think to kind of recap a lot of the comments that have been mentioned about the effects of the COVID-19 on different industry, and who should shift and who should change and who should adapt and who should be more malleable than others. It really depends on the kind of recession your line of business is going through. There are 3 types of recovery after a recession. It's either a V model, U model, or an L model. L being the worst, means it takes you a long time to recover, 10 years and plus, like the aviation industry. That has been hit very severely. Hospitality industry hit severely. Hajj and Umrah hit severely. Other industries, not so much. Like restaurants, I would say it's a V. It dipped and it will bounce back up. Maybe it takes some time, but it will be back to normal pretty soon. But things like the aviation industry, if you change something with the long haul in mind to serve another industry that is relatively similar to yours, like the utility industry, there is value in doing that. And I'm saying this based on an actual case study. When I say case study, not theoretical, it's actually a business case that we're working with the aviation industry to help them reposition their business line to serve the utility industry, because they are one of our customers, the utility industry. Because if you think about a jet engine, it's basically a gas turbine only on the ground with less stringent tolerances. That's really what it is. So it's just really repositioning, repackaging, and then you can serve it, and then it becomes your own business line. It becomes a new business line. If you get into the ventilators, you serve for example, the medical industry. There are other industries that need ventilators that you can just reconfigure your products to serve those other industries, like pilots who fly fighter jets. They need ventilators. You go to people in space, they need ventilators, and the margin is higher for those people in going in the aviation industry, so you can cover your cost. So it really depends on how far you want to look out and where do you want to go. And there's no right solution, but you got to try, you got to fail, you got to learn, and you got to adapt. So you have to have this mindset of continuous improvement and move and flex according to the market, not as you'd like it to be.
Opportunities in every statement you just mentioned.
And
right,
only for the ones who are looking for it.
Right, Mohammed?
Yeah, and for example, I want to add something. For example, what's happening in Bangladesh, for example, the cloth industry, the RMG, ready-made garment. The industry generated about 28 million, in which 80% of the total export earnings in Bangladesh. That's equalized to the 12% of the GDP. And after the coronavirus outbreak, the crisis actually, there was about 2 million workers are affected. The problem is that the low-wage workers, what's going to happen to them? Because I think the most affected people are the low-wage workers, because today they are facing a housing crisis. I mean, to provide for their families. So I think solutions. All the solutions we're talking about, it's a solution for the company itself. What about for those workers, for those people? This is another subject we can discuss about.
Mohammed, you wanted to say something?
Yeah.
Yes, I have just a small question. It's a hard question, but it's to all of our panelists. Since we are speaking about labor, have any of you faced layoff? Have any of you have take bad decisions due to COVID-19? And let us start with Mr. Asiri.
Why Mr. Asiri? So, yeah, we laid off everyone. I'm the only one remaining.
Actually, we start to recruit from India. It's an opportunity for us.
And our company, no, alhamdulillah, we didn't even touch the salaries. I think we are doing okay in our industry. The demand is high, and we are moving in the direction that's aligned with what's happening now in the country and in the world. So for us, no need. But of course, at these times, governments, they do some initiatives that would help companies, and we take advantage, of course, for all these initiatives. So yeah, no, alhamdulillah, no layoffs.
At the positive side, okay, one at positive, one recruiting, Mr. Mohammed.
Me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. First of all, I will talk about what we are facing today. I mean,
okay.
The SIDF, for example, the IDF, the Saudi Industrial Fund, we have a loan from them, a big loan. And actually, they are one of the sectors that the first, one of the very early sectors that started the initiative. I'm talking initiative for rescheduling the payment for us. So, which is, I would like to thank him. Also, for example, other government sector. But of course, I think for the next month, there might be a cutting salary for the management, maybe. Just for precaution, and you have to take further steps sometimes because you don't know when this is going to end. Yeah, exactly. Maybe 4 months, maybe 6 months. You never know. So I think for the next month we will start only for the management, not for the workers. Yes.
Okay, Mr. David. Energy sector, oil prices getting down.
Yeah, that's. That can be an issue, I guess. In the company I'm working for, there have been some cuts of a certain budget. So if you earn a certain amount and onwards, so the upper part has been slightly cut for precautions, even though I think the company is really, really stable, really solid. But they did it just to give also a sign to the workers which are on the field, which were on the field, and which at the moment are mostly under furlough. So they have furlough. Sorry, they have maybe 80% cover of the current budget or the current salary paid by the European governments. So has been a kind of not really needed financially, but more of a
Precaution
vicinity,
as well.
proximity kind of message to the workers.
Asim
Okay.
and Dr. Hashim.
Yes.
How did
Dr. Hashim, go. You can go if you want.
you want me to leave?
I was gonna say you can go ahead and answer the question.
Oh,
but,
go ahead and answer the question. No,
I'll
go
do
ahead
it.
and leave. Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry.
Luckily, in our, I mean, our contracts are annual, so we're pretty much set for the next few years. So we didn't have to lay off anybody, but we did cut some of the expenses, just a precaution. You never know what happens to those contracts. But generally speaking, in the education system, I mean, it's been hit, but at the same time, kids are going to have to learn. So we're basically figuring out new ways to amend those contracts to achieve the targets that the schools are trying to achieve, but in a different way. So,
yeah, go ahead, Asim. Asim.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I mean, nobody anticipated that coronavirus will come around and shut down entire industries. But if your industry is not being affected, that doesn't mean you should not take financial precautions, save cash, make sure that you are set, have runway for at least 9 months ahead. Because if we have a rebound, then that means a second shutdown will occur and more industries will suffer. That's pretty much the point that I was trying to make.
Dr. Hashim?
Believe it or not,
You are recruiting.
no, we're not recruiting yet. I'm actually giving some of my employees bonuses.
Very well done. And this leads me to the next couple of questions, especially directed to you.
I'm afraid you're going to regret bonuses, Dr. Hashim.
The what now?
I hope you don't regret those bonuses.
No, I never regret investing in my people. Never.
That's
they're actually going above and beyond the call of duty. They're working on weekends, working nights. I want them to know that I appreciate them.
Yeah, Dr. Hashim, allow me to say that many people are very much scared about the global supply chain, right? And that is not only in terms of our manufacturing capability, but in terms of supplies of food, in terms of supply of medics, in terms of different supplies, right? And I would like to know more about what do you think that since you guys are in the heart of the industry, because if any machine is broken down, you are supposed to be there to do quick reverse engineering and producing from the local content or from the local item. So I believe that that's the way forward. That's an opportunity, right? And I would like you to tell us more about what sort of micro factories that could open, micro opportunities that might be there for entrepreneurs that they want to go into the industry in a way or another, where areas that they could tap into. What are the potential there?
There are a couple of potential areas depending on the industry, but in general, if you were to say where are the manufacturing opportunities, actually one of the weakest areas in the kingdom is metallurgy analysis, analyzing the material and knowing what its composition, not just the material type, but the material grade, post-manufacturing processes like heat treatment, like plating, like coating. All of this is very weak. This is a major area. And some of the universities existing in Saudi have a lot of these capabilities, but they're not working together. They need to work together so we don't reinvent the wheel and start bringing and duplicating efforts. We need to break these silos. We need to say who's doing what, how can we solve this problem, and how can we bring people to work together. When it comes to the manufacturing realm, relying on digital, when I say digital manufacturing, that doesn't mean 3D printing. 3D printing is one type of digital manufacturing because CNC machining is also digital manufacturing. Digital manufacturing is basically relying on digital information to do the fabrication, whether it's additive or subtractive manufacturing. 3D printing being additive manufacturing, subtractive manufacturing being the conventional manufacturing processes like milling, turning, conventional manufacturing, also casting, investment casting, what have you. So having things complement each other by bridging gaps is really the key. How do you know that? Go out in the industry, see what's out there, understand the demand, see where's the gap, and that's where you fill it based on confirmed demand. This is what I would advise people to do. For example, if you want to get into manufacturing, something very simple like gears, not straight gears. I'm talking about complicated gears. We don't have CNC gear hubbing machines. We have manual gear hubbing machines, which is a device dedicated only for manufacturing gears, because we don't have an automotive industry in Saudi.
True.
When it comes to automotive, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Muhammad, in the automotive industry, you have 3 types of spare parts. You have genuine OEM, genuine non-OEM, and then remanufactured.
Yeah, aftermarket auto part. Correct.
Aftermarket auto parts.
Correct.
So we don't have the industry. We don't have the supply chain.
Yes.
When you're talking about automotive industry, most of the parts are outsourced. It doesn't happen in-house within the
Then is that an opportunity? Is that an opportunity for people? Isn't that intensive? Isn't that capital intensive? Don't you need to have a complete ecosystem around you to supplement one other to do it?
I want to add to Mr. Hashim just one thing. Actually, if you go to the car brands, they are designing more than manufacturing, as he said. Actually, they are designing their cars, and most of the car parts actually it's manufacturing outsources from other companies.
Actually, let me answer your question, Mr. Jamal, by giving you an example that I've actually witnessed. Some of our manufacturing partners in Europe, the way it works is that you would have a very large company like Volvo, like Renault, like Boeing,
and they build a cluster.
And then you have 80 manufacturers around them. But here's the trick. The 80 manufacturers are not living off of that company, but 40% of their manufacturing is towards that company, 60% towards other industries. So if there is a fluctuation in industry, they don't die, because their life cycle of revolving of their working capital is not as big as as robust as large companies. So you need so many of these little guys to build the industry, to build the automotive industry. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Muhammad, because you're the expert. You need to start from the bottom up. You don't start from the top down.
Correct. And I agree with you. And actually, even if we are shift, for example, we are an aftermarket auto part today. If we are shift to be an OEM, for example, if you think about it, actually 20% of the market are original parts, I mean the demand, and the other 80% is aftermarket auto parts. Yeah. Which is it depends on the aftermarket, which is it's not related to that. To the AEM, I mean, but most of the OEM factory at the same time they are an aftermarket factory, actually.
But isn't that capital intensive to start? So that's not something for a small entrepreneur to do, right?
Yes, exactly. I agree with you.
Right?
It's very intensive.
So if we are talking about something for entrepreneurs to look at, or a startup as we call it, then that's definitely not on the startup range. That's on a smaller range.
It's not. To start, you need at least 25 million to start that.
What do you think about this?
Jamal,
go ahead, Mohammed.
Yes, I was asking for a simpler question. If I'm a young entrepreneur or a mid-experienced entrepreneur, I have a minimum fund, not millions, but I have a fund, and I see that the global chain network is broke down, and I want to seize the opportunity. What do you recommend to me to start doing?
Stay at home. Don't do anything.
Actually, there are small. There is,
keep my money in the bank.
the auto part industry is very complicated, actually, somehow. But when you enter this market, you know how simple is this market. I don't know how to describe that, but if you think about it, for example, some parts, for example, in auto parts, it needs a huge investment. For example, if it's metal parts, for example, if it's plastic parts, it's different, for example. But I'm not saying the industry itself, I mean, the injection, what we do actually, injection molding technology what we have. But still, you can have a small injection molding at your facility, and you still can inject and make very small parts. you can start with that. But actually, the market doesn't want that, because the wholesaler and the retailers, what they want a range of product to buy from you. They don't want to go for you for just one kind of part, because they want a range of products, not just one type of product. If you go to this market and just, for example, you're going to produce coolant fan only.
Yes, a workshop. For one product.
Yeah, if you're going to go for one product, a competitor like me will going to eat you alive. I mean, it's hard to enter the market with just a small range of products.
Okay, so for manufacturing, we can make it clear that we cannot go except if we are going to go big. It's go big or go home.
Exactly.
I would put a little small caveat to that.
Okay.
Another way of looking at it is you have supply and demand. You have manufacturers, and then you have an end user who's using this product or service. There is no way in hell that they are fully satisfied or fully serving them what they need. There are gaps. Maybe they're small, but it's too small for large manufacturers to invest in that they don't care about. They just
like what?
Yes, this is exactly what we're looking for.
Like what? This is what the people want to hear.
Like, for example, if we're talking about a system and you have a fan blower, I can do everything, but in order for me to produce that fan blower, I need to have an injection molding machine. But there are ways I can do it with a 3D printing machine. For me to do that, but not only serve that pump, I can see the same scale parts and serve multiple industries. In the mining industry, in the utility industry, in the desalination industry, in the transportation industry. You have to be a gopher who can pick a range of products that are within a certain scale and size and material range and serve multiple customers until you find the one that hits, and then you go flying. And this is what I would recommend. But again, there is no scientific way I can tell you upfront, but you have to go and try. And there are very few people who are willing to take the risk because it's very scary and very risky because there are so many unknowns. For those brave enough to do that, go for it and try and fail and learn.
And can you try small? How small is it?
You have to try small. You have to try small. Never start big.
Actually, we are not big. We are categorized as small and medium enterprises. We're not that huge.
Yeah, but you just said 25 million, Musnad. So that's for the average. It is not too small. I would say.
Yeah.
Right.
But actually, there is something you can. I advise the enterprise to invest in supply chain itself. I mean, there shouldn't be a manufacturer, but for example, there is some gaps. For example, me here, I'm a factory, and the chain in the manufacturing, there is a factory, wholesaler, retailers, workshop, then end user. And through this chain, if there is a solution that can skip all this chain from the factory directly to the end user, and cut all this margin, and I think there is a big business here. There is some
the IBM model.
Yeah, there are some businesses actually. They already started in Saudi Arabia as an auto part, e-commerce. They sell it, but still, it's hard for them to sustain. It's not easy. It's because the customers in decision making. Sometimes the decision maker is not the customer here, the workshop guy, and most of the people who works on the workshop, when he pick the part, he doesn't know about the technology. He's not really involved with the technology. This is the issue here. So it's who's the decision maker, and the other question is that who's going to step in and do that?
Now, very good one. Go, Mohammed.
Yes, so we get scared from manufacturing that we can either we go big or go home, or we can go in a very specific idea or a very specific track, as Dr. Hashim has just said. And what I felt that if you get a 3D printing and you can serve a different range of products and different industries, this can be good. But it has to be studied very well in manufacturing to go for this market.
And make sure of your IPs. Make sure of the IP. It's another issue.
Definitely. Believe it or not, there's Volkswagen actually. They have the first manufacturing using the latest technology, 3D printing technology. It's called the HP Metal Jet. That I think Mr. Hashim knows better than me about this kind of technology, but actually the process simplify and speed up the metallic 3D printing. And Volkswagen vehicles, they produce about 6,000 to 8,000 different parts from that technology, and they are the first one to do that. I'm not sure how was the cost effective in that, but I think big companies, they can offer to do this kind of changes. But I mean, small and medium, it's hard to take a decision in such a technology. Yes.
David.
So yes, this brings us to Mr. David. Does if I'm an entrepreneur feeling that there is an opportunity in the energy market, where to point a finger, where to go?
Okay. Yeah, that's a bit more simple, I would say, compared to because it's less fluctuating, because energy demand, it is there for many sectors. If you were an entrepreneur, I would look into services, most probably, maybe not that much into assets. It depends on how risk adverse you are. If you want to invest into assets, say a solar field, for example, you can do that. Depending on the location, you can establish very well all the issuance, all the parameters to have a good interest rate around, maybe it can be 10, 11, 12%, I would say. Let's say at least in the Mediterranean area. If you look at very low investment scale and more IQ or more know-how investment, then you should definitely go into services for is a high demand for flexibility solutions out there. Excuse me?
Like what?
So for example, TSOs, transmission operators, they basically, depending on the renewable energy input, they can have a lot of fluctuations. So at a certain point, they need to basically shut down or divert the energy somewhere else. Let's put it this way. If you want to catch the potential of such surplus of energy, you can redirect it into your car. So electric car can be, or a green hydrogen, so you have divert into the hydrogen cars, which is still ongoing. Flexibility can be also used for heating, for electrical appliances, for example, at your place. Basically, electrical boilers or heat pumps can be balanced so that you can help the TSO, the transmission operator, to have a kind of a flat or an easy way to maintain to manage their own flux. So there are ways to invest a little money more into people than into technology, into assets, that can help you finding that niche that helps certain targets of the market to still survive. And specifically the residential one is and will be still quite stable in terms of demand. Nowadays it's a bit higher because people are staying home, hopefully, right, Dr. Hashem? So and also later on, I mean, currently a lot of nice companies in Spain or in Netherlands or in Germany are making good money based on delivering services. So aggregating those loads, which come from different locations, aggregating those and selling as a service to the TSOs, to these transmission system operators. So,
well, you know, here it is a little bit different because mostly in the MENA region, we don't have the same as Europe, which is what we call the main power generation, and then the DSOs or the distribution system operator, and the TSO is the transmitter system operator. Okay. We have it more owned by the government, so it is only one grid, that one company that is managing it. I think that is what is exactly happening. So I think most of those opportunities will be more applicable to the European or the US market, let's say.
Then in that case, you can definitely empower the consumer to have a different energy bill based on energy efficiency. Okay, that's the easiest one. Increasing the inertia or insulating more, or having thicker walls like old times, those still work very well. That's the basics. And if you go to controlled buildings, smart buildings, there's a lot of nice, was some years ago in your region, and had a nice time and learning a lot from what has been also done in the Arabic area. And last but not least, the user So the household is always a good opportunity. Depending of services to them might be also always very useful if you want to have a renewable energy, I think, attached to the built environment. That's really the basics, the very low margin, low investment type of business you can think of. But I don't know very well the legislation and the policy in your area, so I might be saying something completely wrong.
No, absolutely.
If you allow me, if you allow me to tether David's point, I think what you're saying, David, is basically I'm trying to recoin it in a like Jim Collins mentioned in his Good to Great. You're either a hedgehog or a fox. And most people today who want to enter into as an SME, I would recommend them being a hedgehog. Be good at one thing, but be better than anyone.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have the capital capacity or bandwidth to get into a fox. When I say fox, meaning jack of all trades, master of none.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said.
I agree with you.
Well said.
So we can go to the guy who is the social listening, who listened to them all, and he can tell us where to go. You are listening to everything, everyone.
It's analyzing right now as we speak.
Yeah.
Okay, these guys are going to
Yes, he is silent because
enter.
He's listening. He's
He is
spying.
collecting data.
Destroy.
Abdullah, stop listening.
So you have to tell us very clear direction, very clear sectors to go for. If I'm an entrepreneur, to go software, hardware, manufacturing space, whenever you are listening to everything we are saying, where to go these days to seize the opportunities coming out of coronavirus?
All right. Well, I think if you look at your day-to-day, you would notice one pain for you as a consumer, for many other consumers. And you would notice it, and I notice it in my company because we do actually social listening, and we see this a lot. We see complaint about delivery, right? We see complaint about getting your products and goods from almost all companies. And if this is saying one thing, it says that the logistics here in Saudi Arabia is still behind. There's a long way for the kingdom to be on top of logistics. So one thing is logistics. I mean, logistics is, again, a broad thing. You can be specialized in one of the things in the logistic industry. So that would solve a big thing. And this will not only solve the problem today, this will solve a problem in the future. And this is what I think a smart entrepreneur should work on. Not to solve a temporary problem today, they should look at the future. Because I told you, now most of the retail industry is transforming to digital. Who's gonna supply them? Who's gonna deliver all their products? Who's gonna give them all this connectivity to consumers? Right now, and we have a limited number of people of e-commerce, and we are still at the beginning of the e-commerce evolution in Saudi Arabia, and we see logistic being a bottleneck. So that's one area that I think it's low-hanging fruits that people they can capitalize on. Second thing is, again, when you see a crisis like this, a financial crisis, and you see companies suffering, and you see cutting costs here and there, you would want to offer a solution that would help companies cut costs, right? So, and what does cut costs in terms of, again, I come from a software background, a technology background. What does cut cost? Usually it's automation. It's replacing your 10 people with a solution that would make them 5 people and more efficient. So look for these kind of things in your area. If you are experts at X or Y or Z, try to see what can you do better, optimize your processes so you can offer a solution, a scalable solution, of course, hopefully, that would help them to cut costs. And this can be a wide range of things. And again, this would help them today and the whole year and next year, because eventually every company would love to cut costs. Today, they would love it even more, but in the future, they also love to cut costs. Last thing is what I mentioned today is the digital transformation. Again, many companies, they're going through this. If you can take piece of the cake of the digital transformation journey or process, that would be amazing. People now moving to be digitally enabled. Of course, they are investing a lot of things in processes and tools and technologies. If you can offer thing in their transformation that would be amazing nowadays, and again, going in the future. So these three pillars, I think, that are things that entrepreneurs should focus on, at least from my perspective, from the way I see things.
Abdullah, this is excellent, and I think I need to ask you a couple of questions. You mentioned at the beginning of the talk that we see logistics or last mile delivery, and this had been also mentioned in the logistics session that we had, that last mile delivery is an issue. Logistics in all is an issue. Last mile delivery is an issue. And now you are saying that there are many companies that are opening as we are speaking. Some experts, they are saying, don't take this hype as the go, but make sure that you know what exactly you are doing in the logistics. Now, when I speak about last mile delivery or logistic as an option, so we have different ways. Can we have drones as the new way of doing logistics? Can we have robotics that will deliver to the last mile as the new way? Or is it more of the shared economy because it's already congested and available? Or what is it?
I don't think we need to go to the extent that we deliver it through drones. Let's fix the basic problem we have. We have an issue delivering through regular cars with the regular drivers. So I think we should focus on that. We have an issue for the process of taking the order from the warehouse and delivering to the consumer. That's small, simple thing we have an issue with. So I don't think we need to go to that extent of the advanced, modern kind of delivery. I think we need to focus on what's in our hands right now. Last mile delivery, I know there are a couple of startups and solutions and people are working on that, but again, the demand is high and it's increasing. And for one small company or 2, 3 or 5 small companies, they will suffer. And there's large markets, right? And this market will fit a lot of people. And I think that's one way for them to, that's opportunity for them.
If you allow me to add to Mr. Abdullah, for the last mile problem, actually, I couldn't agree more with him. Maybe we can figure out how to solve one of the problems of routing. You see, we have two, the last mile problem consists of two main problems. The first one is ordering the products from the shelves. It's a picker problem, and deliver it to the customer. So if we can develop a software that help the bakers to reduce the amount of traveling, so we increase the throughput of the bakers and increase the utilization of bakers, it will help more. You see, I've seen Carrefour with multiple shelves or the trolley, it's with multiple shelves. They're doing it manually. Then they go to the cashier, doing it manually. So we need a software program that enable the bakers to do the routing problem, and then for the drivers to solve the salesman problem.
Very good.
Yes.
I think that I'm extended beyond the time. So if you allow me to take just 5 minutes more to answer some of the questions that we've been receiving, is that okay with everyone?
I've been asking some questions. Well, yeah.
Okay. So to Abdullah, the damage is more on B2B for SaaS. Yes or no? Can you confirm this?
It depends. If it's B2B focusing on one specific industry, then it's going to depend on that specific industry. If that industry is flourishing, then this B2B serving that industry is also flourishing. But in case of for example, Lucidia and other B2B, the industry agnostic B2B, which serve different industries, there are some benefits and there are some damages because you're serving the whole industries here. So I would say more into negative side. There is an impact. Studies are showing an impact of 20 to 30% of these B2B SaaS companies. So negative impact slightly.
Okay. In the AI data, is there a cooperation with the nuclear resource for forensics?
I don't know. This is not within my
Something. Okay. So the next one to David. What is the most? I mean, that's okay. What are the most important renewable sources at this time? Is it wind or solar?
Definitely, solar is ramping up faster than wind. If you look at the latest reports from IEA, the International Agency for Energy, then solar is ramping up faster than wind, even though there is higher potential of wind out there, since it is, capacity is bigger.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hashim, what advancements are you seeing in your industry that will make future pandemics less impactful? For example, do you see changes in technology within digital manufacturing that will make our response time quicker for producing medical tests or treatments?
Yes. Once we've identified what are the critical parts that we cannot live without, because there are 3 classifications of parts: can't live without, need to have, nice to have. So if I'm looking at the critical parts, basically I need to go and reverse engineer non-patented technologies. I have to make sure that I do this ethically. And what I do is I create a digital archive so I can manufacture on demand. The same business model as Amazon. Instead of they do print on demand, we need to start manufacturing on demand. We have enough buffer. We need to use a pull system versus a push system. We cannot continue pushing things in inventory because that's a lot of cost. So we need to reduce that. So if we do that in multiple industries, the mining and the utility and the oil and gas, all of these different industries, start thinking more proactively and smart. We don't have to physically own everything physically. So we have some physical aspects, but we have to rely on digital. Technology's there, it's mature, just use it, leverage it.
So do you think that the GCC market will move towards in-house manufacturing after the pandemic?
Definitely, in a very rapid phase, because they have felt the pain, and I'm sure they don't want to feel it again.
So, and also, do we expect to see collaboration between different countries in your industry, such as the MENA, like in terms of manufacturing or hardware or software?
Yes, right now we're actually collaborating with a printing shop in UAE that is specialized in metal 3D printing and also plastic 3D printing. And we're also collaborating with a company in Belgium and in the Netherlands and in the US. So we're collaborating with multiple entities to do one product that will serve the world.
Multiple industries.
Lots of people. But again, since we're not specialized, we have to take methodical and calculated steps because I'm not a specialist. So I have to take very high precautions.
Okay. Also, can you tell us more about the mechanical ventilators, how we are addressing this need? Is there a way in collaboration with all sectors to manufacture the ventilator? Since it's the pandemic time now.
I would say yes. I think what the industrial clusters did, which is, I think is fantastic. They created a platform for all entities. Again, but they have to have entities. They have to have a commercial registration. They apply their capabilities and they're pulling in all of their local capabilities and trying to connect people. And this actually happened. And I'm saying this because it actually happened. And they basically brought in a lot of manufacturers, local manufacturers in the pharmaceutical, not in the medical supply, medical equipment, who are missing some parts, they're having some obstruction in operation. And they came to us and we're helping supporting them indirectly. So we're not supporting the pharmaceutical or medical industry directly, we're doing it indirectly by supporting those in the front line.
Okay, the last question, I think that's to Asiri. Is more on the social listening aspect. So do you see a sustainable future in healthcare, wellness, and wellness e-commerce in the MENA region?
For the e-commerce, this is the way to go. We must move toward e-commerce and enable the whole country and the whole ecosystem of e-commerce to be there. So yes, and for healthcare, mashallah, and we are seeing this today, the efforts of the government trying to boost and the healthcare system and the large budget that they've been assigned and the effort they're doing. So I think, yes, I'm very optimistic in both.
Thank you very much. Nuwaito?
I want to add one thing.
Please.
Regards the opportunity that in the market. Actually, the merging and acquisition, it has a big opportunity today because of what companies suffering from the coronavirus. Also, there is a risk management profile. If you think about the risk management, it will take a higher measurement and identify any future risk, and it will be unallocated cost in the way, I think, and it will make the risk profile higher in the future, and also it will lead to the higher cost, I guess. I think in the future, I think investing in the risk management in the future is going to be something very important.
Thank you very much, Mohammed.
Thank you.
Nuweitu?
It was an amazing panel. I was so happy by having all of the panelists. I guess we have a very fruitful and amazing discussion. And having you with it, Jamal, it was amazing. And all of you we have the honor of hosting all of you in this panel, this initiative, and all of the credit go to Jamal, of course, for this amazing panel and this amazing initiative.
This is a teamwork. Thank you, Mohammed, and thanks for the panelists. With this, I would like to thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights. I'm sure many people had benefited today from the very quick overview into the different industries. I am sure that on each one of those topics, there could be a much deeper dive, and we could speak about different things at different occasions. But I hope that the audience was capable of grasping some of the main concepts and ideas of how this pandemic will change the world, what will happen, and some of the opportunities on how the world will look after we open up again. With that, I conclude very much. Thank you again and wish you a very good night. Stay safe, stay home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ciao.
Ciao.